Hey there, welcome to another Lemon 64 play guide and review. In this episode we'll be checking out Feud, developed by Binary Design and released by Mastertronics in 1987. And as the game loads we can see a nice Steve Pickford loading screen, and most of the 21 comments that I noticed on Lemon 64 said that they never actually worked out how to play the game, and it is quite difficult for the amateur. And don't forget that we were playing this 7, 8, 9, 10 at the time, and it wasn't so easy to figure out, but I did figure this game out and I did complete it more than once. So after quite some years I'm going to try to complete it again. So let's check it out. This game was originally created for the Sinclair Spectrum machine, and as you can see the title screen reflects that kind of rudimentary intro, but from the title screen we get an idea of the game. In this game we have to collect all these plants and all these items. Bones there isn't an actual plant, but all the rest are ingredients that we need to defeat our enemy. Title screen we can also see that this game was converted to the Commodore 64 by John P. Flynn, and he started with 3D water ski for Alligator in 1984 before moving on to Defcom in 1986. This is his third game on the 64, so let's press fire to check this game out. In Feud we play as a character called Leanoric. He's one half of two evil brothers, the other one being Leanoric, and it's our job to kill Leanoric before he kills us. To help us, we have a number of spells in our wizardry spell book, and we'll have to use those spells against our brother for defense and also for attack before he can defeat us. Unfortunately, before we can cast spells, we'll need to collect the ingredients for those. The first one is this one. By pushing up and pressing fire, we can actually collect something. That's Mad Sage. And by moving across to our spellbook, we can find out that Mad Sage is one half of a Swift spell. That will make us run more quickly. But in order to activate that, we'll need to find the speed well. Is this it? No, that's the burdock. So the first part of this game is to wander around a quite large landscape, collecting all the ingredients we need for all the spells we might need later on. And sometimes it's not possible to collect all the spells in one go, so to begin with what I like to do is to spend time collecting those up and then mount some kind of attack during the second stage of this game. And you can see two blue characters on the readout on the bottom. The first one is Leanoric, that's us, that's our energy. The second one is Leanoric, that's his energy. And when one of those reaches the bottom, they'll die, and that's game over. If you ever played this game and are wondering why we seem to be wandering around like an aged old man, that's because our brother has put an aging spell upon us apparently, and if we don't complete this game and kill him, then we'll run out of time and simply die of old age. And so periodically perhaps you will see the energy dropping naturally as we age in this game. You can see on the instrument panel a nice wood effect and a very rudimentary compass, and the arrows on the compass are actually pointing towards our brother, and we'll need to travel in that direction to find him. He's also in this landscape collecting goodies just like us, and he has to collect those to make spells just like us, and so he'll have to go out of his way to do that at the beginning of the game. And this is his home with his cauldron, unfortunately you cannot cast spells with any other cauldron in the game except for our own, and so the spellcasting ability will have to be reserved for a little later on. But that's where he has to return to, and of course you can lay traps for him there. And you can see on the radar he's moving to the west of us, so if we go north, hopefully we can evade him. But just look at that, sometimes these bridges require absolute pixel perfect negotiation just to get over those, and that's one bug in the game. And did you see the yellow character? That was Leanoric. Here he goes, but we don't have enough firepower to defeat him at the moment, so he's running off to find more ingredients, and so are we. It's important to try to memorize the map, trying to find where all these ingredients are, because if you can find a fast route to every ingredient, hopefully you can combine spells and make those even quicker on the game. You can see we now have enough for the swift spell, but we'll have to make our way to our own cauldron. No, not this one, it won't do anything. Our own cauldron in the top left corner. And later on we'll actually gain a teleport spell, which will take us there instantly, and that means we can travel back and create spells on the move. But unfortunately we only have the swift spell at the moment, and that's really no good except for extreme emergency defense. Let's move into the garden, and apparently one of our relatives is in the garden. Our cousin is meant to be here attacking us. There he is, and apparently he wipes off energy on contact, but on the Commodore 64 version he is very much wandering around and doesn't attack us, and very much non-intelligent. On the Amiga version he does have intelligence, and wandering through that garden is made very much harder because you can't simply wander through the trenches. But on the 64 the garden is very easy, and these items around the landscape, this isn't an amazing landscape by any stretch of the imagination, but perhaps it is possible to memorize these, and by walking across the lanes it is possible to access another area. At any point we can also use our spellbook to check out which ingredients that we need, and the freeze spell is particularly interesting. We'll certainly need that. But now that we are at the cauldron, if we pull down and press fire, then we can access the spellbook, and clicking on the pages will turn those, and we can activate those by clicking on the name. That will mix those ingredients, and now they are ready for activation. We have the fireball, and that's not a bad spell because, well, sometimes you need some action in this game. But we do not have the lightning. We also have, well, the zombie spell, which actually doesn't do much, and the swift spell, of course, will need to make a speedy escape, and a sprite spell is there as well. But the sprite spell in the Commodore 64 version, as we'll get to later on, is a little difficult. And so for now I'm not choosing to mix those ingredients together and have those ready. But you can see we have the swift spell, and all we need to do to activate spells is to leave the spell book open on the right page, and then when we hold down fire and pull down, that should activate that swift spell. Remember, holding down fire and pushing up will collect an item. So we don't have very much in the way of ingredients or spells at the moment, but I'm trying to wander around, and maybe if I activate this swift spell, hopefully I'll hold down fire and pull down just like that, and there we go. The swift spell is an immediate time saver when it comes to collecting ingredients, and we still need quite a few ingredients to launch a great attack. But if you want to check these ingredients out, well, we'll just use one ingredient by using the swift spell, and it means we don't have to collect both. But look at that, knapweed. That's probably the most important ingredient in the entire game, as you shall see later on. That's one important ingredient of the lightning spell, which is probably the most powerful weapon and the most necessary in the entire game. So it's important to memorize where that is, and if you use the swift spell to get there in an emergency. So I'm just trying to wander around here. I can't actually find any ingredients behind any bushes. Usually those are in wide open spaces, so clicking around behind trees and bushes shouldn't reveal anything in the way of ingredients. On the radar, our brother is directly above us and we are trying to track him down, so if we keep on heading north we should be able to find him, and maybe we could use a spell. You'll notice a number of different villagers wandering around, and those can be turned into zombies, but apart from that they are just added colour on the landscape. So now we are heading back into our brother's territory. We're actually going to collect the speed well we needed for the swift. We already had the speed well, incidentally, but we still don't have the best ingredients for all the best weapons. And we now have enough for the teleport and, of course, the Sprites spell. So let's just leave those for the moment, and hopefully let's start making our way towards our brother for our first attack. And that's sometimes quite daunting because you never know where he's going to be, and he tends to run around the screen like crazy. So if you weren't prepared for that, the freeze spell is a great one to activate because that will make him freeze on the spot. And well, we haven't got activated the zombie spell, and we already have this one. Luckily it does not highlight on the screen when you've collected more than one ingredient of the same type. No, you can only collect one of each one, and that was our brother running around. I have the zombie spell selected at the moment, so if I just change that, let's try the fireball. Unfortunately, the fireball is pretty difficult to wield at the best of times, because when we pull down and press fire, we'll be in the downward direction and not in the rightward direction to kill him. Did you see that? Let's see that again. Yes, that's the fireball, and unless you are immediately above your enemy, that will not hurt him. And I think you have to stand above and diagonal with the freeze spell activated, and that will sink a fireball into him. Now let's try the invisible spell, and that will of course make us invisible to our brother. That will do much, but if he has any fireballs or any lightning, it means he won't be able to see us, and we can steal ingredients right from under his nose. But apart from that, the invisibility spell is another one of those weird spells that doesn't really do much. Let's carry on collecting those magic ingredients, and if you want to complete this game very quickly first time, it's probably a good idea to collect all the ingredients you need within the first few minutes, and then inflict maximum damage on your enemy. Then the game is pretty easy, and you can see our enemy Leanoric has already taken a hit. That wasn't from us, that was just before we activated the fireball, as he wandered into the garden and got knocked out by our cousin. So that's why he lost energy. We have not inflicted any damage upon him as yet. But hopefully now we've collected the last few ingredients that we need, and I noticed the teleport spell was also complete, so hopefully if we head back towards our cauldron, once we've collected these items, we can activate the teleport spell, and that cuts out most of the walking home. But I like to walk home anyway because there are a lot of ingredients on the way, and if you've missed out any of those, it means you have a good excuse to collect them on the way. So I tend to walk home the long way, even if I do have the teleport spell to take me there quickly. Again, the invincible bridges of doom pose a slight problem trying to get over those, but eventually we managed to walk in a straight line and climb over that small pool that we could have just jumped over anyway. And if you are wondering, yes, this is a monk's robe, but we are supposed to be a wizard, so that doesn't really stand up for itself in this game. But finally we are heading home and collecting the last few items before we make another run to try to defeat our brother. See, we've found the cudweed and the knapweed with a lightning spell, and on some cracks of this game the final ingredient for the lightning spell isn't actually in the game, so that isn't actually possible, but I'm actually playing the tape version of the game at the moment, which is the one I had, and hopefully the lightning spell will work. Now we have the ingredients, but again, being careful not to select the sprite spell. And finally we have the teleport activated. Yes, now we can teleport back to the cauldron from any point of any screen, just like this. The teleport spell never wears off and you never have to collect those ingredients again, so we can teleport back to our cauldron at any point continuously. That is the only spell which has a repeated use, all the others require the ingredients. And we have a few spells, including the very vital freeze spell, and still not enough for the heal, but let's select the lightning, and let's make our way down towards our brother, and try and find him, and try to inflict that damage. What I like to do to try to harm my brother is to finally have that freeze spell ready and waiting. As soon as he enters the screen, you can freeze him. Unfortunately, he froze us to the spot before we could activate that, and as you can see, we are rendered harmless to him. See, due to a bug in the game, the cudweed has disappeared from the lightning spell, but we have got that activated, so let's use the lightning. And you can see, due to several other bugs in the game, sometimes if you fire that off the screen, it won't actually hit him, but of course if you do fire on target, so let's get some more knapweed for that while we're here, then you can see his image is now, well, it's virtually a third of the way down, and we haven't taken any damage at all. So our brother is taking hits, and if you see the screen flashing, it means he's taking damage. So now that we've used that lightning, wasted it by not being on target and not freezing our enemy, now we'll have to collect more ingredients and try to use that again. Of course, if you can freeze the enemy, first of all, use the lightning at point blank range and fire a missile of some type into him, then that should wipe most of his energy off. And from memory, I think you need at least 4 or 5 fireballs to kill him, or if you are using purely the lightning, you'll need at least 4 of those on target. And of course you can mix up fireballs and lightning to your heart's content. Those are the 2 major attack weapons, and if we are attacked we can always use the heal spell, and that will heal any damage. Of course our brother could do that as well, and you might have seen our brother on the screen there. Was that him or was that a doppelganger? Because there is a doppelganger spell, and you can see every pedestrian is now a cloned image of Leanoric, and that means that he's activated that doppelganger spell, so that we are now unsure which one he is. But we still need some more ingredients, and so we don't have enough for the swift spell either. Remember, even though we have the ingredients, we still need to go back to the cauldron to activate that spell. Background, you can hear another tune by David Whittaker, and even though this is not one of his finest hours on the Commodore 64, it's not a bad tune, even though it kind of gets on the nerves after a while. It's deep and feudal, just like this game, but of course he went on to bigger and better things. And speaking of the designers of this game, it was designed, as I say, by John Pickford, originally on the Sinclair Spectrum, and he's most famous for designing Glider Rider in 1986, and he went into Amarot in 1987, and later in his career moved on to games like Tin Star in 1994. It was co-produced by Steve Pickford, who created the original graphics and that great loading picture you saw on the introduction. This is also yet another binary design game, and if anyone remembers Street Surfer, That was another binary design game that we reviewed. You may also remember ARG, which was a dinosaur game, and 180 Darts, and a game called Zub. So you can see on this 64 we are still being attacked by our brother, who's using his favourite freeze spells, the very spell that we should be using against him. So let's start to make our way back to that cauldron, and let's start to mount our second attack. In this game you have to play the long game, you have to know where all these ingredients are, you have to know where your brother is at all times, and you have to know a strategy. And sometimes a strategy can help, particularly if you get all the spells in the right order. If he has a massive spell on his side, you can always use the doppelganger and get lost in the crowd, but apart from that the doppelganger is pretty darn useless. And we have quite a few spells now, so let's teleport and let's activate those. There's Leanoric trying to attack us in our home base. Luckily, as soon as you select the spell book, he will freeze on the screen, and that will allow you to use the freeze spell. But unfortunately, I'm choosing to use the lightning spell, and that will only last for a few moments. So unless you can get that on target, that's basically a wasted spell. So the screen flashed, we managed to hit him once with that combined attack, and he used doppelganger, so we're not actually sure which one he is. And as you saw, he can walk through fences and walls like they simply don't exist. The only spell I wouldn't recommend is the Sprites spell, and if I remember correctly, you have to use the self-protection on yourself before you use the Sprites spell, otherwise that will backfire and kill you. But if you manage to do that while the other player is on the screen, you'll kill them just like that. And you saw our brother killed us just like that with the Sprite spell. Let's play that back, let's see how he did it. As soon as we walk onto that screen, he simply killed us with the Sprite spell, and unless we have that protection, then we'll die. And as far as I know, that's how you complete the Sprite spell, and you can walk up to him with protection and kill him straight away. But there seems to be a bug on the 64 version which sometimes kills you anyway, even if you do have that protection. But that's why the protection is there, and that's how you can defeat him and complete this game. Thank you for viewing in the Lemon 64 Play Guide and Review.